You're listening to the Cynic Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cynic.
Welcome, everyone, to the 8th episode of the Cynic Radio Podcast. That's right, there's been 8 of these things. We don't believe it either. I'm your co-host, Cynic, and with me, as always, my co-host, Igri. He's got a little bit of a sourpuss on this week because we will not be covering the Gilmore Girls reunion on Netflix. However, we will be talking some Walking Dead, we will do some What's Up and Really, some letters from the listeners, and possibly another awkward story. I think I might have started a trend last week. So here we go.
You bastard, you know I wanted to cover the Gilmore Girls. It may not be the show we wanted, but it's the show we needed. Maybe I just don't have much to say this week.
Hey, just like in our What's Up segment, we like to let the listeners know about some great businesses and websites that you might want to take advantage of, such as Haven for Heroes on 35 Front Street in a sleepy little town called Port Jervis, New York. If you're in the area, stop by and see Emmett and the gang. There's always huge crowds there for Friday Night Magic, and you get 10% off the cover price whenever you have a subscription to a particular comic. Tell them the podcast sent you. And finally, we're excited and proud to announce that the podcast has been picked up on Avatars Radio. You can hear us every Friday night at 9 o'clock. Avatars Radio is a fun and eclectic mix of music with some pretty cool DJs. It's a companion station to one of the biggest and most exciting MMOs around, Shroud of the Avatar. I've personally played it. It's a fun, fast-paced game with a great community. You can find them at shroudsoftheavatar.com, and the station is at avatarsradio.info. Check them out. You'll thank us for it. Miss out on that latest viral video? Didn't see the most recent trailer for the next movie coming out? In the dark about what the biggest song in America is? We've got you covered. Every week we scour the internet and look for the latest and greatest. This is What's Up.
What's up for me this week is the song Jolene, redone by Pentatonix and Dolly Parton. This song that originally came out in 1974, fresh new vibe with our favorite a cappella group Pentatonix and Dolly Parton, who seems to never get any older. Also redone this week on The Voice, along with Miley Cyrus, still Pentatonix and Dolly Parton. Knock it out of the park. It's so much fun. You can find it all over YouTube. Go check it out. Dolly Parton and Pentatonix, Jolene. That's what's up.
Well, Ig, what's up for me this week is the citizens of Gardner, Kansas. According to an article in the Huffington Post, Celebration Park in Gardner was under siege by a mountain lion. The city responded by putting up trail cams all over the park. However, what they captured was something completely unexpected. They got a few raccoons, an idle coyote, the Swamp Thing, Santa Claus, I guess it is around Christmas time, a guy in a biohazard suit with a gas mask, 2 very large gorillas both wrestling and possibly mating, and a very pregnant-looking wolf lady. The local police department thanked whoever was responsible for the unhinged montage and stated it made their day. However, to date, the mountain lion remains at large. So to you, citizens of Gardner and its police department, for this week, you're what's up.
So for this week's awkward story, we get an email from our friend Frank. Frank says, I was asked to recently relay one of my most embarrassing moments, so here it goes. A few years ago, the wife and I were vacationing in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, staying at a lovely Holiday Inn near the center of town. Enjoying ourselves, we decided to stay one more day. When we went to the front desk early the next morning to add another night to our stay, they said that the room we were in was booked for that day. But the clerk said, we'll be happy to give you a different room from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor. Clerk said, I'll even send the bellhop up to take your bags to the new room while you're out doing whatever you're doing. We said, sure, that sounds great. Paid for the room, went out for breakfast. After breakfast, stopped in a few shops, picked up a book about Gettysburg. Before continuing our day, I decided to make a quick pit stop back at the room, take a little bathroom break. So the wife waited in the car. I went up to the room. As I walked up the outside stairs of the hotel to get to our room, I had my face buried in the new book. So interested. In fact, I was engrossed in the Battle of Gettysburg book so much that I totally neglected to pay attention to what floor I was on or the room number I was looking for. Needless to say, in my delirium, I'd wandered back to the 3rd floor to my original room, only to find the door open and a rather burly gentleman leaning on the balcony outside my room smoking a cigarette. Thinking the bellhop must have just brought our bags into our new room, I brushed past the unsuspecting stranger right into the room. Proceeded to make myself comfortable on the bed, read my book. Hindsight, later I realized that I had quite unintentionally positioned myself in a rather provocative, come-hither pose with my head resting on my elbow and legs crossed, reading my book, oblivious to the world around me. Next thing I know, the burly smoking dude from outside was standing in the doorway of my room looking rather perplexed and extremely annoyed. Wondering what the hell this bonehead's problem was, I said, "Can I help you?" Still puzzled, he retorted, "Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?" It was at this moment that I noticed a set of luggage on the floor near the bed. It was also at this moment I realized, not my luggage. All of a sudden, that perplexed look on the gentleman's face made perfect sense. He wasn't intruding on me, in fact, quite the opposite. Not only had I walked into his room, but from his vantage point, it must have seemed as though I was presenting him with a completely unsolicited proposition. How utterly trashy of me. I mean, this guy hadn't even brought me dinner yet, and here I was sprawled out on his bed, looking like a cheap $2 whore. Of course, the complete hilarity of the situation failed to grasp me at the moment, but was replaced rather with total embarrassment. I think I even peed a little. All that ran through my mind was, thank God I didn't crap in this guy's bathroom like I planned. I quickly got up from the bed, stumbling all over myself, and my words apologized to the big guy, saying, "I'm so sorry. I thought this was my room." Immediately made my exit without looking back. In hindsight, in reflection, I think the situation, much better response would have been to give the bed a few pats with my hand, blow the guy a kiss, but then I may have never left that hotel room, except maybe in a hefty bag. So there you have it. Embarrassing moment. We love these embarrassing moments from you, everybody. How about for the next week, send us your most embarrassing holiday event with your coworkers. Holiday work party. They happen all over. Send us your most embarrassing holiday work parties. Maybe we'll pick you to put you on the podcast.
This week we get the honor and pleasure of talking about The Walking Dead Episode 6, Swear, which I kind of slightly did when I saw the previews and found out it was only going to be about Tara and Heath, but I digress. So the episode opens with the ocean gently lapping against the shore. It looks like it could be a nice, serene type vacation spot if the zombie apocalypse wasn't going on. We pan over to a struggling walker in the mud and the sand of the ocean, just kind of laying there, not accomplishing much. And if this wasn't foreshadowing for this episode, I don't really know what is. You hear two girls talking, one of them calls it a bobber. The younger one takes a spear and drives it directly through the walker's head.
Walker kill of the week.
Probably, yeah. I would think so. I mean, there wasn't much going on in the way of action. Rachel probably provided all of it for us. Rachel and Cindy are standing there. She sees another one and she goes racing towards it. But it turns out to be a very wet and possibly unconscious Tara. So she raises her spear and she says that she kind of wants to do it. The other girl stops her. Unfortunately for us, Rachel doesn't drive the spear down. She could have saved us all an hour of our lives by watching this episode. And then after seeing the ratings and the feedback, I'm sure that the AMC and the brain trust at The Walking Dead probably wish they would have let her.
They could have only saved us a little more heartache from another episode that didn't take us in the direction we need to be going.
Cindy wants Rachel to leave the girl alone. In a very Lizzie-like moment, she says, "But I want to." We cut to Dr. Dre and Tara in the RV, and Heath's upset that they found very little. And Tara replies, "The number one rule of scavenging is, there's nothing left in the world that isn't hidden. We just have to find it." And that, I don't know if you caught that or not, but that was a total Glenn quote from Season 5, Episode 2, Strangers.
I didn't catch it, but that does sound like a Glenn thing. They aren't having much luck finding anything, really. I mean, what was it? A couple of cans of some form of potted meat and a bottle of aspirin?
Yeah, I don't know quite what okra is. I think okra is some sort of vegetable, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, at that point, it kind of dawned on me that Tara coming into the series had lost everybody she knew due to the governor's well-executed raid of the prison. And she doesn't know yet that most of the people that she knows now are the people that she was close to are also dead. Glenn, Abraham, Denise, they're all gone, and she doesn't even know. Heath reminds her that they went further out than they were supposed to. They've been gone for 2 weeks, and he kind of wants to go home. Tara disagrees. She says that they need ammo and medicine, and that there's people at home depending on us. Now, I didn't quite understand Heath's objection, because after the raid on the satellite station, he wanted to get out of there more than anything. I mean, Glenn almost begged him to come back to Alexandria, and he's like, no, we got to get out on the open road. They're gone for 2 weeks, and suddenly he wants to get back. Did that make any sense to you?
No, it didn't. I mean, I guess, wanderlust goes away, maybe? Because it's like, no, we got to get out of here. No, we got to go. And now he's like, got to go back. Let's go back. Come on, let's go back. I think it's just convenience and lazy writing rather than to see where these characters actually had their mindsets.
It's unfortunate, too, because Heath in the comic books is kind of a cool character. And I didn't understand the writing in the sense that, sure, he saw kind of the savagery at the satellite station, but the real hard work and the protection was done by Glenn. And you can tell that he's kind of blaming the misfortune or what's progressed with the Alexander Safe Zone on Rick's group. However, if it wasn't for Rick's group, that group that was sitting there, the original group in Alexandria, they would have got ran over by the wolves. At some point, the wolves and the saviors would have found them.
And they'd have been all done. Because they didn't have the simple backbone to stand up to any of those groups. Yes, they had materials, they had cover and concealment, they had guns, they had things, but they didn't have training, they weren't organized, they couldn't put anything together, so I don't know. It seems lazy, and it's one of the many, many, many problems I had with this episode.
Meanwhile, back at the Ocean of Doom, Cindy leaves Tara some fresh water and a spear, and it looks like maybe possibly some food. And I get the sense going forward in this episode, if Tara doesn't find the hidden immunity idol, she's probably going to be voted off at Tribal Council.
I think she will be, and they're going to extinguish her flame, and she's going to take the walk of shame and go hang out with the other lack of survivors, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, she hasn't even made jury yet. I mean, that'd be most unfortunate. She seems like a power player. She walks away. Cindy kind of walks up the beach. She sits down and starts crying. Tara does her best fake kind of Assassin's Creed behind her and follows her into the forest. She begins creeping around a group of cabins, and it looks like some sort of small hidden community. As she looks around, she only sees women and children, and then possibly a shed full of guns.
A shed full of guns. Oh my God.
Being the least sneaky and most oblivious person in the world, as she's watching these people kind of live their life, there's a clicking noise. They all line up in single file as if the fire alarm at school just went off and start marching over to the shed. Oh, guns. And guns are being handed out, yet this still does not dawn on Tara what's going on here. And then they begin to fire, which seems like thousands of times, and no one hits her.
I was waiting for Oprah to show up. You get a gun, you get a gun, everybody gets a gun. Here you go. Kill that bitch over there who we don't know who she is.
And Tara goes running around as they begin to chase her. She outsmarts one of them, kind of gives them the clothesline from hell, knocks her down, grabs her. There's a struggle for the rifle. She gets the rifle, holds it at a very Clint Eastwood line from the girl laying on the ground. Do it. Tara chooses to butter in the end of the rifle, and she begins to run. At this point, we're going to see an episode of nothing but Tara running. My whole thing is, if we can get Cersei Lannister a body double to do the walk of shame, why can't we get poor Tara a jogging double? It just looks painful to watch her run.
Yeah, she's not all that athletic. I think she's got bad knees and bad feet and bad lungs and bad form.
Well, to be fair, I mean, she was just pregnant not how long ago. She's not back up into playing shape yet. And she's super well endowed, which looks just painful to watch her try to sprint. I didn't quite understand it, but she did a good job. And I read an article that said not only did she do all her own running, but she did all her own stunts too. So hats off to Alana Masterson for that.
Next time, put her in a red bathing suit like Baywatch so that if she can run, they can at least slow it down into slow motion, and it'll be more fun to watch.
Well, or they could have just had her run in slow motion, and it would have been less friction and less pain for the poor girl. She goes running around the side, and new Lizzie gets a drop on her and tells her, "It doesn't matter, we're supposed to kill you anyway." The older teen Cindy steps in and stops her. We get some awkward Tara dialogue.
Yeah, I was waiting for the little girl to just say, "Just look at the flowers, take over the other role."
So we insert some awkward Tara dialogue, which The Walking Dead seems to be fantastic at. And she's like, trying to be cool. "I'm sorry, I walked in. I didn't even know I was in." I'm not sure. I never understood why in every scene like this they have to have somebody with 8,000 guns pointed at them. One or two would probably be sufficient. She's like, or, she's trying to talk her way out of it. They're not lowering at guns, or we can keep doing this. We cut back to the RV with Tara and Dr. Dre. And I'm not sure in a world full of RVs why The Walking Dead chooses to use the oldest, most broken one-downs RVs that they can find when you know that there's just millions of new ones laying around and not being used. Tara and Heath come across a blocked-off overpass. It looks like someone tried to settle it there, make some sort of settlement. They put dumpsters on one end, and for some reason, you could have used gravel or rock or some other dumpsters, but they chose to use mounds of sand on the other side. It looks fairly abandoned. They walk around it. They don't find anything or anyone. They come to the pile of sand, and in the most genius move of the week, Tara finds a bag stuck in the sand, and she begins to tug.
That's where all the good stuff is going to be, in a bag in the sand.
So she pulls on the bag. At the last second, Heath catches the fact that it's pulling down the whole pile of sand on top of him. He yells for her to stop. The pile collapses and enter the Sandwalkers. Which, by the way, right away, Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice rang through my head and said, "The Sandwalkers usually stagger in single file to hide their numbers." Tara's surrounded on the ground. She falls. It looks like Heath is kind of being backed up too. It's at this point, it looks like Dr. Dre tosses up deuces and tells her, "Peace, I'm out," and runs behind the curtains. And it definitely looks like he's leaving her.
Yeah, I thought he was out. Done. He's like, "Peace. Good knowing you. Right when you find work. I'm on my way."
Yeah, I'll catch you on the flippity. So we cut back to Oceanside. I believe that's what they end up calling it. They introduce LaTanya as the leader. And part of the problem with this episode is they introduced the two most compelling, and they weren't all that compelling to begin with, characters in the first 10 seconds of the episode, and they seem to be in it the least. They didn't take any time with these Oceanside people to do any kind of character development. The leader is the opposite of Ezekiel as far as being interesting or unique.
Or charismatic.
Yeah, really. Yeah, she kind of reminded me of the leader of Terminus almost. She even kind of looked very, very similar.
Not a lot there, and I don't know why she gets to lead, because she's not doing anything besides kind of sounding like a bitch.
Yeah, so they go and they interrogate Tara a little bit, and they start asking her what she's doing there, who she's with, and you can tell, once again, bad writing. She's lying her ass off. They've got her handcuffed to a radiator, and she's, "I work on a fishing boat, but I don't know. I've got a friend, and I don't know where he is, and you could just let me go, and everything's going to be fine." The leader tells him, LaTanya, a great name, "If we let you go, you definitely have us at a disadvantage because you know where we are, and we usually shoot strangers on sight." Nighttime falls on Oceanside. They all sit down to a nice fish stew dinner, which Tara's, they tell her that we have an endless supply of fish. So finally, something about this community, other than it being sort of hidden, that there's some sort of bonus of benefit to.
Now, did you catch where I thought, endless supply of fish, where it's all women and everything? I kind of found that weird.
Yeah, I think Tara asked that question too. But that's kind of a little further down the road in the story. But yeah, she noticed that. I noticed that too when she was kind of Assassin's Creed in the way around the village. I was like, I don't see any guys here. One or two younger male children, but I wasn't quite sure whether that was by choice or accidental. So we get to the point where Tara asks them, "Where are all the men?" And they reveal that they got into some sort of skirmish with some people, and they killed all the men. So the whole group left and took to hiding. Did you get any hint at foreshadowing at that point?
I guess I did a little bit. I mean, what I was thinking at that point is it had to be either wolves or saviors. I don't know. It seemed a little convenient. It seemed a little, again, lazy. There was so much lazy in this episode. Like, well, we could really fill this in with some interesting stuff and do something. But you know what? Let's just say, yeah, it's just us and a couple of boys under 10.
They call her on her BS larder story when they tell her it's not a boat. She kind of tries to come back at him a little bit, but to no avail. It was a bad lie to begin with. Why didn't she just tell her I was a cashier at Walmart, or I worked on my uncle's boat. I didn't really know anything. He just paid me to swab the deck or whatever. I didn't quite understand the source of the lie. She does deliver the best line of the show, and she said, "If you treat everyone like an enemy, enemies are all you will find." Now, I thought that was a pretty good and pretty apt line. She breaks down. She tells them the satellite station story and where she's from, the fact that she's part of a community.
Yeah, a part of a community and part of what's going on, and she has people and they have things going on, and it's a good thing, and maybe we could combine.
Yeah, these people don't seem like they're looking for any kind of partnership. I got the sense that it was the Saviors right away, and they're trying to stay as hidden as possible.
They are not joiners.
No, they definitely are not. We cut to the morning. She says that we'll let you go. We'll help you find your friend, and then I'll send my 2 best people back with you. I don't know. I got the sense that she kind of relented really quickly. How fast of a jump do you go from, oh, we shoot everybody on sight here, there's no exceptions, and then next thing you know, no, we can't have a partnership with you. And then suddenly it's like, all right, fine. Within 5 minutes of clumsily written dialogue, and I realize I have to speed it up for TV, but, she didn't even the night to think it over. She's like, all right, fine. Go ahead, Tara. Head back with our people and we'll check this out.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead. Yeah, we like your plan now, even though we've been reticent to listen to anything you've said up until this very moment. We'll do what you say. I mean, it almost seemed like the kid that decides, yeah, fine, we'll play the game your way. I didn't get it. It was lazy. It was stupid. And I didn't believe it for a moment. And I almost thought that there were other things going to go on, but it didn't. It just stopped there. I was like waiting for them to go, ha ha, just kidding.
Yeah, there was a couple things that gave me pause. And we have the awkward moment of the week when Tara goes to fist bump LaTanya, and LaTanya kind of does something else, puts her hand over top of Tara's. They say their goodbye. I had kind of paused with the formation in which the 2 fighters with her were walking. One was behind her, one was in front of her, and they neglected to give Tara a gun. So they begin to wander out of the encampment. They pass Rachel working on some sort of arts and crafts project. I think it had something to do with macaroni. I'm not quite sure. Rachel spits at her feet, and she gives Rachel a look, and then as she's walking away, she spins around and she does the Tara patented finishing maneuver, the turn and flip, the 1-finger salute, and off into the woods they go.
The bird is the word.
I kind of sensed the old Yeller was coming, and so did Tara, because she bolts from her guides at the first possible sense. More running. It looks completely painful. Tara slips and kind of falls down a little bit of a gully. Pretty decent fight scene at this point. Tara comes up slightly short, and at gunpoint she explains that the person from Oceanside explains that you didn't kill all these people. These are the Saviors. There's lots of them. That was just an outpost. There's lots of outposts.
She's right. And then explains how, they came back and they made us watch while they killed every boy over 10. That was probably the one shining spot in this episode. There were some moments here and there, but this speech, this embattled, impassioned speech, this shined for me. This part worked.
Agreed. The best line of the speech was, "They get what they want." And any background other than the whole Easy Street thing that we could get on the Saviors, because the Saviors are a kind of a compelling organization. So it was neat to kind of see them looked at through somebody else's eyes. And that was an extremely brutal thing that they did. They lined up all the men. They lined up all the boys. What was it, over 12?
Over 10, I think.
Over 10, and shot them in front of everybody. That's definitely to the extreme. It looks like Tara's kind of met her end. The girl's ready to shoot her. There's no way to talk her out of it. And Cindy, from the beginning of the episode, jumps the girl, knocks her down, and her and Tara take off into the woods. A little bit of dialogue. Cindy holds the gun at Tara, is acting like she's going to shoot her. Tara knows differently. Cindy is probably the only one in Oceanside worth the time that they spent kind of shoddily developing the character. And she, once again, triple word score, makes her swear, which is the name of the episode, that she'll never tell anybody about this place. Reluctantly, Tara agrees, and they head off to the overpass before the guides catch up to them.
Gotta get to the bridge.
At the bridge, Cindy shows off the fact that she is a good shot, and the rifle isn't just for show, as she begins plugging the sandwalkers left and right.
She's a very good shot. Might be one of the better shots in the show so far. She is running rounds at a rapid pace, and not many are not hitting direct home. I was actually kind of impressed by that. She can shoot.
Yeah, she's got that Princess Leia-like accuracy. At this point, The Walking Dead decides to change the whole tone of the episode, because rather than have Tara run, they're going to have Tara run on top of cars. And I just thought that was a completely innovative idea to not stop her from running, but just put her someplace else for her to run. Somehow the 20 or so walkers that were buried in the sand now became closer to 100 walkers. And the only thing I could hear in my head was Milton from Office Space say, the walker to sand ratio is all wrong.
Yeah, it just seemed odd because they were all obviously covered in the sand. They looked just like the ones that came out of them. There were two piles of sand that were sizable. There's no way you held 100 walkers in that amount of sand, though.
Well, it's that, and they cut back to the Tara and Heath fight scene, and it just seemed like these walkers were just looking to crowd. They weren't even really looking to bite. And I got kind of the same sense when Tara was trying to get to the other side. It really looked like there was no effort from the walkers to attack, just to crowd. And I never got the sense that they were really in danger in that whole thing. And I don't quite understand the whole, you back up 2 steps, you stab one, you back up 2 steps, you stab one. I don't understand how they allow themselves to get swarmed like that.
I don't know either, especially it's like they don't understand how walkers work. I mean, this isn't, what is it, Dawn of the Dead that has the running zombies? These are walking dead. They don't run much. They lumber, they walk. You run for 3 steps and you're kind of away from them. And there's big openings, just like, Adrian Peterson playing against toddlers. The holes are wide and they're easy to get through, but instead she just 3 steps, run into one, 3 steps, knock one over, 3 steps, try and lazily stab one. I didn't get it.
So they cut back to the fight scene with Tara and Heath, and you see, in fact, that Heath did come back for Tara, but he got extremely overwhelmed, and it was at that point Tara fell off the bridge, and she ended up floating down into the ocean area. So we don't see what happened to Heath. She gets around the walkers, and she gets to where the RV used to be parked. It looks like somebody left a valet card with 3 P's written across it, whatever that means. Before that, we get a little bit of the Walking Dead ingenious swerve, which was ingenious the first 10 or 15 times they used it. They used a walker that looked exactly like Heath and turned around, and it wasn't Heath. It was just a plain old walker. So she gets back to the RV. It's gone, and she decides that she's going to have to walk. A little bit of montage, a little bit of music. She ends up at a gift shop. I don't know why there's a gift shop out in the middle of nowhere. She gets herself some plastic glasses and a bobblehead doctor. Wanders back to the gates of Alexandria finally, where she's met by the funniest crying face I've ever seen on TV, Eugene. Eugene kind of lets her know what happened. We cut over to her sitting in the infirmary, just kind of playing with the bobblehead, and Rosita trying to find out what happened to her out there, whether she had some intel on some guns, but you would think that if she had intel on guns, she would have brought them back. So it was a little bit of hidden, hey, did you see anything? And no, I'm keeping this secret.
She did swear.
She did, and it doesn't look like, at least for now, she's giving up Oceanside. Maybe she will kind of hold steady to her word. The episode ends. I mean, the best part of this episode was probably the previews for the next episode, where we see a lot of Rick and Jesus and Carl and a little bit of Aaron Y. But I kind of can't wait for next week. This was definitely a little bit of a filler episode, and we only have about 2 more episodes left before they've really got 2 more chances to kind of turn the ship around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mid-season finale is right around the corner because it's going to be this month now. We are in December, the final month of the year. They got to turn something around because it started real strong. I was real happy with where it was going. We were going to shed some people that were casual watchers. We were going to have a whole bunch of people having a good time. The last couple episodes have started slowing way down. Now, I did like the one before this, but this one was hard to get through. Even being a fan, it just was slow and plotting, and it needed to go somewhere, and it wasn't going anywhere.
Well, it lacked any kind of character development. It lacked any kind of compelling characters. I liked Oceanside as a community. I thought it was different, and it's being ran differently. I like the idea of the fact that it's a community of just women. I like the idea that, they have the drop on some food, so possibly, trading, and they have some of their own weapons. So all that stuff was good, but I mean, they didn't give us anything as far as, they didn't give us an Ezekiel or even a Gregory to like or hate as far as the leadership there. They didn't give us a reason to even want to see them go back to that other than the Shed-O weapons.
Shed-O weapons and fish jerky. I mean, there was nothing else going on there. There was only one character there that I felt any real attachment to. The rest of them were just outliers. I mean, from the leader all the way down, Cindy was the only one that I cared about other than the little girl that was ready to kill everything and anyone that moves. Cindy is the only character that built a relationship in the show, I think. It's really tough when you can't make anyone care about the rest of what's going on.
Yeah, I'd love to see more Cindy and more Rachel. Latanya, not so much. The rest of them, I think their motto should be Oceanside, come for the weapons, stay for the salted perch, maybe.
Right. And who likes salted perch? Nobody. But that's okay. I guess the fish stew was good because she ate the shit out of that.
I'm going to go ahead and throw this out here. I'm not blaming this episode on Alana Madison at all. I think she's a good actress. I think she's intelligent. I think she's funny. She's really personable in person. She's even really, really attractive. Hats off to her for standing up to the internet and just the complete ass trolls that ran her down for her shape or the way she ran. Or listen, she just gave birth a couple weeks ago. She's nursing between takes. She's a human being. People need to stop with that. Especially since the other people on the other side of the keyboard are not 3% body fat and can do 1,000 crunches at a time. Most of the people that watch these shows, really fit and shape people don't even really watch TV. They don't own TVs. So that if you're going to take time to watch the show and then you're going to take time to run people down, chances are you're not in the gym for 2 hours a day either. You're not ever going to be on the cover of Men's Health or any of the other magazines. So how about we stop judging people based on their looks and start accepting people for who they are?
Well, and if you really want to judge Alana Masterson, Tara, she's a very pretty girl anyway. And I don't know why everybody thinks everyone needs to be a size 0 or a size 1, but that's not realistic. She is a very good actress, and even in this episode with the lazy writing and the poor setup and the nothing going on, she did a great job. She was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, it's going to look painful when she runs because you're right. She did just give birth. She is still nursing. And it doesn't matter how many ace bandages, duct tape, or anything else you use, you can't strap everything down and keep it from bouncing around where it looks like it's going to be painful. But you're right, the keyboard warriors out there of the world, get up and get off your lazy butts and stop trying to judge everybody else. She's out there putting it down. You guys aren't, you want to talk the talk, get out and walk the walk a little bit.
Like I was saying too, this doesn't fall at the feet of Tara. This doesn't fall at the feet of the actress. this character has been doomed since the word go. They've never known quite what to do with her. They've never known quite what to have her say. It's almost like nobody is awkward on the writing staff or has ever been through situations in real life that, are just kind of weird or offsetting. They've never really done anything to develop her character other than give her one or two snappy lines, the line, and then they kind of, they made her a lesbian just to add any kind of flavor to her character. The one scene that really only stands out to me was when she was with Eugene, and he's like, I like girls, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I know. Besides that, it's only the fact that she's a good and funny actress is I believe that she's still alive on the show, because they've done nothing with the character, and they finally give her an episode to herself, and they still do nothing with it. The problem with this season isn't the show is done, or isn't the show is run out of ideas. I think it's the pacing. Some of the episodes have been chronologically probably out of order. The parts with Tara this week probably could have been shoehorned into other episodes. I mean, if you're going to give us an hour and 15 or an hour 30-minute episodes, why not just put the meat of the swear episode in there rather than make it a standalone? It wasn't strong enough to be an episode by itself.
You're right. It certainly wasn't, and I mean they could have cut some out of all of the previous 4 episodes, and they could have left every single moment from this one in. Because there was easily 15 minutes out of each of the last 4 episodes that they could have removed, and put in 15-minute segments of this episode in. Problem is, maybe they don't know how, they know where they want to get to in this season, and there's stretching material for some of it, but I don't think they need to. I think, some of the more character-driven things, some of the Ezekiel's and things like that, spend more time with them, because they're things that, even with the little bit of exposure we've been giving, they're enticing and we care about them.
Probably not the smartest thing in the world either. I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan has made the talk show circuit because he's got a movie coming out, and with the last 2 episodes of The Walking Dead coming up, he's doing press. He's already announced that he's going to make it through this whole season, and he's signed for season 8. So that kind of takes the, will they or won't they factor out of it. I don't know the conventional wisdom of that, and I don't know if he'll see any backlash from AFC. Now, just because he's signed doesn't mean he's going to survive, but that's a fairly good indicator that you wouldn't lock up a busy actor like him if he's not going to be in a certain amount of episodes in season 8.
Well, you can't kill Batman's dad that easily.
I think the last 2 episodes are going to be awesome. The next episode's entitled Sing Me a Song. So I went and did a poll amongst the Cynic Radio universe and some of the Walking Dead fans, and I asked them, if you had to sing a song to Negan and you were Carl, what would it be? Overwhelmingly, showing the personality and originality of the audience, 60% of them said it would be Easy Street. 20% would be Carl Papa, and we'll get to that later in the episode if you don't know what that is. 10% in Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which I believe that was the only song Carl knew, and sang that to him because that's what his mom used to sing to him in the comic books. And then 10% were various other songs, one being CeeLo Green's F.U. So I thought that was pretty funny.
It is pretty funny, but, the Easy Street, he'd have to spend some time around there listening to Daryl get beat up for a while to hear the Easy Street song enough to sing that one at him. But that would be kind of funny.
I also ran a poll of what would be their least favorite episode so far in this run of Season 7. Overwhelmingly, it was this episode, Swear. Second was The Cell. Third was Go-Getters, which I didn't quite understand. And Well was number 4 with 5%. I liked The Well. I really didn't have anything bad to say about it. A few people were down on the Tagger idea, and they think it's juvenile. I thought it was done, it's a comic book. So a guy owning a Tagger isn't that much of a stretch when we have people flying around or, aliens living amongst us. I had no problem with the episode, The Well.
And I like Go-Getters. I mean, it was a long episode, but I liked it, and it worked, and it was necessary, and it kind of got some things really brought out into the open about the saviors. So I didn't get their choices either, but their number one choice, that one I got. I understand it completely. If I was going to pick which one was worse this season so far, this would definitely be my number one.
Yeah, for me too, but not for the fault of the actors. I'm telling people, hang in there. I think the last 2 episodes are definitely going to be worth it. And the second half of season 7, we're headed out to all-out war. So if you want to see this all come together and the time spent finally means something, that'll be definitely the direction that you want to head in.
Definitely. So rounding out, I'm going to say my score on this one, I'm going to go flat 5. Watchable, a couple of good moments. Not 1942, Steven Spielberg's worst movie ever, but not much to be desired. So I'm just going to say 5. Right down the middle of the road. We'll leave it at that.
I'm going to have to fully agree with you there. I was thinking around the terms of a 5 too. Probably, in my opinion, one of the worst written and performed episodes in the whole run of the series. But you're going to get that from time to time. Not everything's going to be Citizen Kane.
There you go from the Cynic Radio Podcast. The episode Swear from The Walking Dead. Episode 6, Season 7. 5 from the Cynic Radio Podcast. We're looking forward to episode 7. We'll be talking about it next week. This one's going to be better. So here on the Cynic Radio Podcast, we love hearing from our fans. We got a few emails. We're going to answer some questions. We're going to talk to you guys a little bit. Jennifer from Virginia writes, "Hey guys, I heard your first episode when you talked a little bit about Westworld. Are you going to do any more about that?"
Well, absolutely, Jennifer. We intend on waiting till after The Walking Dead is finished, and we're going to pick up Westworld and possibly do a episode-by-episode breakdown. Iggy's a little bit behind in the show, but he's catching up. We're both really enthusiastic about it and its direction, so we'll most definitely cover it going forward in the future.
We absolutely will. It is a great show, and I can't say enough about how Anthony Hopkins is in this show. Take a look, Westworld on HBO. Go look at it. You're going to have a good time. So our next question, Bobby from New York says, "Hey, you guys keep talking about Star Wars every now and again. What do you think about Rogue One? You guys going to go see it opening week?"
Yeah, I'll be in line with my ticket and my popcorn and my fanboy hat. Probably night one, at least opening night. Maybe not the midnight showing. We're going to give it a week for everybody to see it, and then we're going to do a full breakdown and review of the movie. Ig and I met because of Star Wars. We're friends and podcast partners because of Star Wars, so we can't wait for the first Star Wars content we can cover together.
It's going to be a good time, and all the trailers, all the hype, and everything that's going behind it, I can't wait. It looks amazing. The Force is strong with this one. It's going to be a good time. Billy out west in California, Billy says, "Hey, Cynic, how was Thanksgiving? Did Grandma get you again?"
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to see Grandma for Thanksgiving this year. She's down south. She remained down south, but she once in a while sends me a derogatory text or email about the podcast. She's not much of a fan, but at least she's listening.
And our last question comes from Lisa up in Washington. She says, "You were talking about the road out at Comic-Con. I like to travel around, go to Comic-Cons. What are your thoughts? Would you recommend I go? Let me know."
Well, as easy as it was to get tickets for that one, partially because it was oversold, I would probably pass on that one unless there's just somebody amazing there. The layout and format of it is not good. They oversell the VIP passes. The lack of communications, or the lack of communication with the fans, is amazing. I've never been to a con where you had to buy a ticket for an autograph and then go to a separate section for a picture. I was embarrassed for them. I mean, I knew I was in trouble right away when I was standing in line to get in, and the line was for the VIP was over a mile long, and people were talking about in previous years that the fire marshal had shut them down. They split the con amongst two buildings. If you leave, you have to go back and go through security to go to the other section. I mean, I did have a lot of fun interacting with some of the fans. Very nice group of people up there. There's a lot of cosplayers. There's, they definitely did have a lot of stars and of B, C level. One thing I was a little disappointed about, though, was that the main section, they let you in as a VIP at 9 o'clock, and in the main section where the bigger stars were, nobody sat down besides Alice Cooper. I don't know if you would consider him a big star anymore, besides Alice Cooper, till about between 1 and 2 o'clock. And I don't know how the contracts work, but most of the stars weren't coming for the whole weekend. A lot of them were just coming for Friday or Sunday, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. Gal Gadot, for one, Christian Slater, some of the bigger names there, some of the bigger draws, they just weren't there on Saturday. So, no, the Rhode Island Comic Con is definitely a pass for me. I'll probably be trying to get maybe New York next time, and in the future head over to San Diego. But I would avoid it at all costs. I wouldn't make the trip. Providence is it's a small, overpriced town. I've never paid as much as I did for a hotel room, and I was completely unimpressed all the way around.
And that's going to do it for another episode of the Cynic Radio Podcast. I'm Ig, that's Cynic. We had a great time talking to you this week. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We love repeat listeners. You can find us at cynicradio@gmail.com, cynicradio.com, on Twitter @cynicradio, and on Facebook, Cynic Radio. We'd love to hear your comments, questions, concerns. Send us naked pictures of B. Arthur and a helmet full of cream cheese. Until next time, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at cynicradio.com. Available for download on iTunes.